Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The first case tonight is continued from the September 2024 meeting. It's the final map for Black Ridge South Phase 10. This is zone PR1. It's located south of Black Ridge South Phase 9 on the south side of Black Ridge Parkway and north of the Cottle River. The purpose of this plat is to create 54 new residential lots and 4 common area lots from acreage. Staff has reviewed the plat and recommend approval contingent upon a bond in the amount of $357,700 being posted by the applicant.
Okay. Any questions on this one? All right, go to the next one.
The next case is a resurvey of Lot 5, Lake Cyrus, Sector 16B. This is zone PR1. It's located on Brookside Pass in the Lake Cyrus community. Purpose of this plat is to vacate construction easement across Lot 5 in order for Lot 5 to be used as a residential lot. When this plat was submitted back in 2006, there was a construction access easement to Lake Cyrus Sector 16A placed on this lot, and a note on that plat said that when the lots were completed in Sector 16A, this lot would be brought back and this lot would be resurveyed and that access easement would be removed. So that's the purpose of this plat. Staff has reviewed it and we recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions on this one? All right.
Next case is the final map for a resurvey of Martinwood Estates, the 6th sector. This lot is zone R1. It's located at 270 Shades Crest Road. Purpose is to vacate an existing utility easement that is not being used located at the rear of this lot. Staff has reviewed this and recommends approval. The reasoning for vacating this portion of the easement is for construction of a retaining wall and a swimming pool.
Okay. Any questions on this? Next case.
Next case is preliminary plat for Everly Phase 4A Sector 2. This is zone PUD. It's located on the south side of Everly Parkway, east of Oakdale Road and immediately north of Phase 4 in Everly. The purpose is to create 36 residential lots, 1 multifamily lot, and 2 common area lots from acreage. The staff again has reviewed this plat, has no comments, and recommends approval.
Any questions on this one? All right, go to the next one.
Next one is also in Everly. It's preliminary plat for Everly Phase 5B. It is also zone PUD. It's located north of Everly Parkway and north of Everly Phase 5A. Purpose is to create 105 residential lots and 2 common area lots from acreage. Staff has reviewed this plat as well and recommends approval.
Okay.
I do have a question.
All right.
For the last 2 Everlys, do we have any issues with the parallel parking that we've had before? We've had to kind of shift around the curb cuts and
No,
these are all.
we've got all the rules down pat. We've
Okay.
got a separation for parallel parking to intersections.
Okay, thank you.
You agree?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, next.
And the last 2 are final plats in the preserve. First one is a final plat approval for a resurvey of Lot 601, Preserve Phase 15. It's zone PR1. It's located at 4229 Colonial Way South. The purpose is to create a new storm easement on Lot 601A. Staff has no issues and recommends approval with this. And the next one really goes with this, so if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Wood, I'll read the next one and try to explain it. The next one is final map approval for a resurvey of Lot 613 in Preserve Phase 15. It is zone PR1 as well, and is located at the intersection of Preserve Way and Colonial Way South. Purpose of this resurvey is to create a new storm easement and vacate part of an existing storm easement on Lot 613A. Staff recommends approval. And what has happened in this area is we had an encroachment in the existing storm easement. We worked with this builder and the developer to relocate the storm pipe and the storm easement, and that's the reasoning for these two surveys. So,
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Martin, Rick, you're up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, next up on the agenda, we have Z-1024-13. This request is from Mr. Connor Farmer, who's requesting a zoning change to property that's addressed to 2985 John Hawkins Parkway. The property is currently zoned NZ, not zoned, and is located directly across from Patton Creek Shopping Center proper. And I'll pull this up on the overhead real quick. This property is accessed through the Paradise Lake subdivision, and again, directly across from the Patton Creek Shopping Center, across Patton Creek, the tributary. The request is for this property to be zoned R1, single family residential. There is an easement, a conservation easement recorded across this property. And that particular conservation easement does allow for the property owner to build a maximum of one single family dwelling and its customary accessory buildings along with access to the single dwelling unit that would be developed on the site. So after reviewing the application as well as going through the entire recorded conservation easement on this property, staff is recommending approval of this rezoning effort contingent on the following. One, that the subject property is entitled to only one dwelling unit, which would be a maximum of 5,000 square feet in size and its customary accessory structures. And two, the owner of the conservation easement that encumbers the property should communicate in writing their approval of any subdivision or development of the property prior to any plats being recorded or construction permits being issued. Be glad to take any questions.
This is so unusual, isn't it?
It's very unusual. I suspect that the reason it has not been zoned prior to this date is nobody has been ready to take advantage of the one dwelling unit that the conservation easement affords to the property. The conservation easement was put into place primarily because the shopping center itself is across Patton Creek, and thus a connection was not feasible from the body of the shopping center over to this property. And so I would say that for tax reasons, this property was put under a conservation easement. Given its topography and its location, was not going to be a part of the commercial development, though it is and has been owned by the owner of the shopping center. So at this time, we do have someone who is interested in purchasing this property and utilizing the one unit that the easement affords to it. We are going through the process here of zoning the property accordingly.
It's got access?
It does have access. The right-of-way from Paradise Lakes does abut this property, and you will see in the exhibit that came with the zoning application as well as the conservation easement recording that it takes advantage of that right-of-way frontage in giving access to part of the parcel that would accommodate the one dwelling.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Next.
All right, the next two cases are taken in tandem. One is a zoning case Z-1024-14, and we also have a conditional use case that is included with the proposed planned unit development amendment. This comes to us from EBSCO Industries, representing Tattersall Park. They are requesting an amendment to the Tattersall planned unit development, which is currently PC planned commercial. That is the zoning designation across the entirety of Tattersall Park. And they are wanting to rezone a little over 30 acres that remain undeveloped in the Tattersall Park development in order to do two things in essence. One, they desire to, as part of a mixed-use development, incorporate residential components with this particular sector of development. And secondly, they are requesting a different development criteria for this particular sector in order to create a more compact development. So this will come with its own setbacks, its own site development criteria, including criteria regarding height of buildings, bulk of the buildings, so on and so forth. And so the idea that EBSCO is proposing is to build a mixed-use village center on the remaining 30 acres of the site. So in reviewing this application, staff, we do have some comments that we would like to incorporate, some alterations to the PUD document itself that we have outlined. Some of them typographical, some of them substantive, but we have those listed, and if you'd like, we can go through the PUD document. This won't take very long.
I'd like.
Okay. All right, so our first comment would be to insert some additional verbiage on, this is page 4 of the document, just to create some differentiation between the original PUD plan and what is being proposed for this property. So we're highlighting a couple of spots where the document is referring to the original PUD plan. Secondly, we do have a statement in this PUD that states that street trees would be allowed to count towards the overall tree canopy of the development, and we are simply asking for a statement to be added that should street trees be planted along a thoroughfare, that the sidewalks would not be the responsibility of the city to maintain. Rather, the sidewalks would remain the maintenance responsibility of the developer or the owners association. We do note that in the exhibit that they have included for the overall site plan, the Big Whiskey's site, that needs to be updated on the exhibit. The Big Whiskey's restaurant was developed a little closer to Tattersall Boulevard, and the parking lot has a different layout than what is included on that exhibit. Page 15 of the document, the developer is requesting that they be able to rearrange any of the proposed uses as shown on the master plan for this development, be able to rearrange, relocate those without any additional approvals from the city. We are asking that language be inserted, in essence, having any rearrangement of those uses within the village center decided by the planning commission at time of plat for the property. Okay, so the developer at current is asking for the ability to rearrange any of the proposed uses within the village center without requirement that the same be approved by the city. And what we are asking is that in addition to any major change as defined in the zoning ordinance, that any rearrangement of the improvements illustrated in the village center property zoning plan are subject to consideration by the planning commission at time of plating.
So if I can ask a question of that, basically what you're doing is putting the planning
Can you
commission.
speak up, please? I can't hear you.
So Mr. Martin, what you're asking or what you're proposing is to make sure that it still comes before this board before any major changes.
That's right. The developer has submitted a site plan with this particular PUD amendment, and staff's reasoning is there's a certain level of communication that this brings, an expectation that the development will be put together in this fashion. It's a fairly small development. We understand that there would be more need for redesign, shifting around if we were talking about a much larger development, particularly on land that has yet to be terraformed. But in this particular case, you're about pad ready on this 30 acres, and the city is being asked to approve a PUD amendment with this particular plan in it. And so if there's going to be any rearrangement of the improvements shown on here, I think it would be best if the planning commission had some oversight of that when we get into the planning process.
Mr. Martin, I don't remember a request like this in the past couple of years where a developer is asking to be able to rearrange the PUD after the PUD has been approved. Typically, doesn't the developer have to come back and specifically ask for an amendment to the PUD to make those types of changes?
Last couple of plan unit developments we have had, their master plans have been labeled as conceptual. So there is within that an expectation by the developer to make some changes as needed as they go along, so long as the uses of the property do not change. To some extent, that is acceptable. Again, when you have a large swath of land that hasn't been fully engineered and hasn't been fully terraformed, I get it. If you're looking at over 100 acres or more. But in this particular case, particularly given the interest the community has in this location and given the size of it, I think the staff certainly feels like we're being sold on a certain vision. And we just want to make sure that that vision is adhered to. And if there is any deviation in the manner in which this is laid out, that the planning commission has some oversight.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, what's the total number of residential units we're talking about?
Okay, we do have a breakdown within the PUD. It actually comes right after that comment that we asked to be included in the PUD document. So as of right now, the max, they're dividing the residential units into two categories. The first category is active adult, which is defined as 55 plus, and they are requesting 170 units of active adult. And those active adult units are spread out amongst different unit types. You have multifamily type of active adult unit. You also have townhomes and semi-detached dwelling units that comprise the active adult sector. So kind of going back to our illustration, the master plan, they are showing buildings, in this illustration, buildings I, J, K, and L as the active adult sector of this development. Buildings I and J would be a multifamily configuration maximum 4 stories tall. Buildings K and L are your townhome and your semi-detached units. But those are to be classified as active adult 55 plus. The other classification we have is a request for market rate multifamily units, meaning that there is no age restriction on those units. They're available to whoever can afford to rent at those locations. We do have some footnotes related to the units for the market rate multifamily at the bottom of page 15. Footnote number 1 states in the instance that a hotel is not developed on the site, that particular building within this village center could be developed for up to 48 market rate multifamily units. So instead of the 125 rooms that they are projecting for the hotel, they could instead be used 48 market rate multifamily units. So that could increase the number of multifamily market rate units that are proposed for the development. The other footnote that I want to take note of here at 15 is very important. Regardless of if we're looking at that 137 units of market rate multifamily or that 137 plus the 48, should the hotel not be developed, there is a percentage breakdown that they have included for bedrooms within those units. All right, so 47% of the market rate multifamily will be 1 bedroom. So 1 bedroom studio apartments. 50% would be slated for 2 bedroom maximum. And then they are calculating 3% max cap on units 3 bedrooms plus.
So, forgive me if I'm asking a redundant question, but with the number of, are the number of 55 and over, anything that, the market rate units can't go into the number of 55 and over. The 55 and over is a separate, irrespective of the market rate units. Am I understanding correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm thinking about this from maybe a big picture with regard to the school impact. It's relatively small in terms of numbers of units that would impact the school. Is that what?
Yes, sir. I'm glad you asked that. We did send this over to the school system for their consideration, their review, and their official response to us is that they have capacity within this part of their feeder pattern to accommodate any students that are precipitated as a result of this development.
Will they be here tonight?
Yes, I believe we do have representation from the school system tonight.
Mike, I have some questions about parking.
Okay.
And looking at the proposed parking spaces and comparing it to our current zoning ordinance, it looks like they're meeting what's required for the commercial areas and office areas, but not for the residential. Can you give me an idea about that? Because it's showing, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, we should have 2 spaces per unit for the residential, and they're proposing 1.
Okay, from what I pulled from our zoning ordinance, it appears that they are utilizing the parking formulas for the MXD, mixed use district in the ordinance. I had the same thought you did.
Yeah.
That,
Are you comfortable with that?
No.
our ordinance permits, in the instance of a mixed use development, altered ratios. And what they have provided here is directly from that.
Yeah. Also looking at the conceptual land use plan, you know, and I know this is very, very preliminary. The location of the parking, also in respect to some of the units, I have a lot of questions and concerns about the parking be it location or numbers, but,
I will say that the planned unit development amendment before us contemplates shared access and use of parking across the entirety of the development. So you have on-street parking along both thoroughfares that crisscross the development, and you have a number of parking fields around the periphery of the development. So according to the PUD amendment, they are targeting each individual use that is being proposed, consolidating the parking requirements for each use and providing parking that meets or exceeds that total tabulation.
so our ordinance with the mixed use requirements doesn't take into consideration the percentage of what mixed use, residential versus commercial versus, I don't believe a 3-bedroom apartment's gonna have one vehicle. I just,
Yeah,
like I said, I know,
it uses a straight formula for if there is a mixing of different uses. It considers that a bonus and takes off of the normal required parking figures we have for each individual use separately.
okay, that's all I got for now.
All right, let's see, continuing on in the document, just a few more additional comments that we would like incorporated into the document. Swimming pools and tennis courts are listed twice within the use table. They are permitted as outdoor recreation. We don't see the need for additional spaces on the chart for those. Retail is mentioned multiple times, so we request that one of those lines be deleted and the other, that general retail be added so it's more in line with our zoning ordinance. Let's see, self-service storage, that has been listed as permitted by right. That's a little concerning given that earlier in the document we're being asked to allow for the rearrangement of uses, and as long as it's permitted, they can place it wherever and how much of it they want. For self-service storage, I know staff would feel a little more comfortable if that were either a conditional use or if any self-service storage on the site was strictly for the residents of the site. So kind of an either or option there. Contractor yards, I don't think we want that as a principal use of property. The planned unit development itself allows for contractors to set up on site while it is under construction, but having it in the use table, these are principal uses that would be allowed in perpetuity, and I don't think we want contractor yards or laundry dry cleaning plants or operations. We already have laundry and dry cleaning included in this chart earlier in more storefront sizes. So I don't think we need, there's some duplication there that we'd like to take care of. We have a final section of the use table that seems pulled directly from the zoning ordinance, but we have a section label that's missing. This extreme bottom part of the graph should be accessory uses. And our zoning ordinance does have certain rules pertaining to alcohol retail, and we want to maintain that as constant. Those include your specific uses that accessory alcohol sales are permitted, and also has other development criteria associated with alcohol sales. So I think we want to maintain consistency there with the zoning ordinance and what we enforce across the rest of the city.
Mr. Martin, I do have
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I understand the purpose of the chart. So, for everything listed on the chart that has a P next to it, the planned commercial zoning would already permit those items, is that correct?
For every use that has the P listed beside it, as is the case with the chart in our zoning ordinance, that particular use would be permitted by right. So there would not be a need to come for additional zoning entitlements for those uses to locate within this village center. If there is a C located adjacent to it, that means that that particular use would need conditional use approval by the planning commission and the city council before locating there. And if the space is blank or there is a use that is not listed on this table, that means that particular use would not be permitted on the site.
Thank you.
In effect, this chart will supplement and replace the use chart and the use criteria we have in the zoning ordinance for the PC district.
Mag, before we get too far from the parking,
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. So it looks like in our ordinance, the mixed use requirement for residential is 1.5 spaces, and they're proposing 1, so it still doesn't meet. Is that right?
Let's see, that would be for the mixed use, the ones that are included with the commercial on the bottom floor. And that is, at least according to the master plan, that would be this building C. Buildings H and G, that market rate multifamily would match what we have in the mixed use development.
Which is the 1.5 per unit.
That's right.
And how, I guess not seeing where these spaces have been allocated to the different items being proposed, it's not clear at all. Just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
Perhaps a way in which we can guarantee that the parking is sufficient when they come for platting to show the number of units anticipated for a particular lot that they're platting out and the amount of parking that they're going to be including in that portion of the development. Would that help?
You know, maybe.
Give you guys.
There's other questions about pedestrian paths, lighting, all that I know will come.
Sure.
But it's all related to that parking and whether or not we need to look at it a little bit closer. Yeah.
Sure thing. But that concludes our comments of the PUD document itself. We'll note that in the traffic impact study, there are some figures related to the number of units and square feet in the development that need to be updated. So it would appear that the different intensity levels of the various uses have been elevated in the PUD ordinance amendment since this portion of the traffic impact study was developed. So one question that we would have for the traffic engineers is, given the difference in what we're seeing in the number of units and the amount of square footage in the PUD amendment that we're considering, is it, in their opinion, going to significantly alter the results of this study? And I believe we do have representation from the traffic engineers here this evening. Perhaps they can help us answer that. Okay? So apart from that, we are in a position, staff is, to recommend approval contingent on the PUD amendment being altered in accordance with staff comments given to you guys, the Planning Commission. And as far as other considerations and comments are concerned, the property is currently zoned PC Plan Commercial and can be utilized for a number of commercial uses. That's very important. I know we've had some questions given to us, staff, by folks in the community, particularly asking about the hotel component. And I want to make it very clear that under the planned commercial zoning designation that is in place today, a hotel of any kind can be developed now. It does not require a PUD amendment for a hotel to be developed on the site. Let's see, in addition, the applications for zoning amendment and conditional use approval will permit residential uses to mix with the commercial uses on the site. That's one of the main reasons they're bringing this before you. And the second is they want to create development criteria to create this more compact mixed-use form of development, lessening the required setbacks and providing new criteria as far as height, bulk, and other physical design elements. I do also note that the comprehensive plan supports commercial development in this vicinity.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have another question. On page 4, Matt, I need help interpreting what one of these paragraphs means. If you look at paragraph 4.2, there's a sentence that says, furthermore, the development criteria attached to the PUD plan as Exhibit D thereto shall apply to all of the property, but not the village center property. And then it goes on to say, attached hereto is Exhibit D and incorporated herein by reference is the village center development criteria, the village center property development criteria for the village center property, which shall be applicable only. Can you point us to the sections that are and are not applicable to the village center?
So our interpretation of this section is you still have the development criteria for the Tattersall PUD in the original plan unit development. And what this section is saying is that the development criteria pertaining to the Tattersall plan unit development is not going to apply to the village center. And in Exhibit D in this amendment, it's creating new development criteria specifically for the village center. Now, the criteria in this amendment, we are going to attribute only to the village center portion of this 30 acres. And we're not utilizing it for any other portion of Tattersall. So, at least my reading of this section is it is trying to differentiate between the development criteria created in the original PUD. It's still going to be applicable to everything outside of this 30 acres. And we have a new Exhibit D within this amendment that is going to be applicable only to the 30 acres.
So there are 2 Exhibit Ds. There's Exhibit D to the original PUD plan, and then there's this Exhibit D, which applies specifically to the mixed-use development.
That's right. There are development criteria sections in each one.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're running a little late. Let's go ahead and get this meeting started.